Hello everybody out there and welcome to the ToniSport Newsfeed. Today I'm back with another video for you for our shock package topic. In the last two episodes we talked about shock oil, rebound, spring selection and all these important things. And today I want to go a little bit deeper into this topic with you, and I would like to talk a little bit about the shock shaft length and the position of the piston in the shock body, and which effects a change of these two components will have, and what you maybe will be able to feel on the racetrack. And this is not super easy to explain, and because of that I made a little drawing on a piece of paper, and I hope that this will be better to explain and to show you what you can affect with the change of the position of the piston in your shock body. So let's get it started and let's take a look on this piece of paper. So now it's time to explain what the different shock shaft length will do with your car and with your shocks on the racetrack. So a lot of people, they think when you change the length of the shock shaft, you will take any influence or any changes on your droop or on your ride height, which is absolutely not true. Your ride height is set by the preload of the springs you will give your shocks, and the droop is always limited by the grab screw, the set screw, which is in your arms, which are touching the chassis and which are limiting the droop. So a change of the shock shaft length will not take any influence on your values. Now it's time to take a look here on my nice drawing. I hope you can imagine that this should be a shock body, a shock shaft, a piston, and the eyelet, which will be mounted on the arm. All your manufacturers, when you look in the manuals, they have their own values, which they tell you when you build your car. You should go, for example, for 11 millimeters of shock shaft length. And when you build a shock, you will measure this with your caliper here from the bottom of the shock body until here all the way down to your shock eyelet. So when your manual says 11.0, you build it here with a measurement of 11 millimeters. So now it's time to explain what a change will mean in this situation. We just have some standard values. This is a random value here. You have a ride height set on your car and you have a droop set on your car. This will not change when you make any changes to the shock shaft length. So imagine you run with this configuration. You build a shock with a shorter amount of shock shaft with a 9 millimeters length, and you place your car on the track in your setted ride height. Then the shock piston will be in some position. We guess it's exactly this position here, and you will have an amount of oil above the shock piston, and you will have an amount of oil under the shock piston. When you look on this drawing, we imagine now that we have a shock shaft length of 11 millimeters, so we have a difference of 2 millimeters of shock shaft length. Your car is at the same ride height standing on the track, then your piston will be higher, 2 millimeters higher, positioned in your shock body. And this will cause that you have a little bit less amount of oil above the pistons and a little bit more of oil compared to this one here under your shock piston. So I hope for the moment it's all clear for you and it's easy to understand what I mean. A change of the shock shaft length will definitely change the position of the piston in the shock body. So, but what does it really make, or how does it influence your car? I will try to explain it. This example here with a more short shock shaft is better when you are running on a track with a low traction conditions. Because when you run on a low traction track, it is always good to have a bigger amount of oil above the shock piston, because when your shock starts to work, you will have more resistance here, more load or more pack above the piston, and your shock piston, your shock shaft, when the shock is going inwards, will get more pressure or more resistance, and this will also transfer more pressure to your tires and will give you the feeling of more initial traction. On the other side then, when the shock is compressed and your car is maybe doing a direction change and the shock wants to come out again, you will then have only less or not that much oil under the piston, and this will allow the car to make a faster direction change because there is not that much resistance under rebound, and this package in this combination will be better when you're running on a low traction track. Your piston is not that high in the body of the shock. You will have a lot of resistance going inwards, and under rebound the resistance is lower and your car will change the direction even faster. When we now take a look here on the other side, where we have a basic setting of a longer shock shaft and your piston is already a little bit more upwards here in the shock body, then you have a little bit less oil above the piston and more oil here under the piston compared to this one here. This is better in high traction conditions, because in high traction conditions it's always good when you enter the corner and when you turn in that the shock and the resistance of the oil is not too big. This will make the car not super aggressive going into the corner, and during a direction change or under rebound then you will have more pack of oil under the piston, which will slow down the rebound process a little bit, and this will also give you the feeling of a smoother car, and it is not so twitchy as this will be. So generally we can say a shorter shock shaft is good for a track with a low traction conditions, and a little bit a longer shock shaft is working better in higher traction conditions. I hope this little piece of paper here with my drawing will make it easy for you to understand what I mean. It is a really interesting tuning options, and a lot of the really good guys, they play around with the shock shaft length from time to time when they have a really good car and a really good setup, and they will try to get the last couple of hundreds of seconds out of the car. Then they start to playing around with these settings as well. So it is all about the amounts of oil above and under the piston, and when you are on your racetrack, just try to play around a little bit with these things. Once again, a shorter shock shaft is better for low traction, and a longer shock shaft will work a little bit better in high traction. So give yourself some time to play around with these things, and I'm sure that you will gain a little bit more performance out of your car then. So guys, I hope this little piece of paper was interesting for you. As you see, there's always a little bit more you can try out with your race car. I think all these setup options, they will never end, and it's really interesting to play around with some small details like that. When you ask yourself now why I know all these things, to be honest, I always read a lot before I do videos. Maybe some things I know from my experiences in the last 20 years of RC racing, but I recommend once again this great book, Speed Secrets from Ryan Maker, our friend from Australia. If you are not sure what you're doing and you want to fresh up your mind and your informations, just take a look inside, and you will also find some information about shock packages and things like that. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and next time we will continue with the shock package, and until then, race with ToniSport. You will never race alone. Enjoy RC racing and have a great day. Goodbye.